It's the Sod Pod, brought to you by Grassland Agro. The Sod Pod. Hello, and welcome to the Sod Pod. This is episode 4 of season 2. I'm joined with an eclectic mix of people here. We've Davy Corbett and John O'Loughlin on my left, and we have our shining stars, Claire Aspel and Lauren Stanley, on my right. I suppose there's a big conversation to be had today. Last weekend was an interesting weekend on the GEA front.
Oh, I definitely want to talk about it, Jim. So I actually invited everyone in the company from Wexford to join us today. I even went back through the annals. I reached out to Kieran Conway as well and a few more. Any lorry drivers that come in and even draw fertiliser from any of our depots that are from Wexford, I asked them all to come in. I asked Bernard, I suppose, in an act of cowardice, refused to come on to defend.
Burley Furlong.
Yeah, Bernard the Vet, as he's more commonly known now. I asked Bernard to come on, and he sent me some very abusive messages back in response. I can't repeat them because this is a PG program, but listen, they're obviously rattled. Probably done more harm than good for Egan and the squad. To be fair, listen, it is only the league on a serious note, but I felt that he blooded too many players at one time. You know, you need to bring in maybe 2 or 3 and have them in with kind of a couple more season campaigners to see what. Do you not
feel he's caught after the 5 years that Davy gave down here and his failure to blood a big enough panel? Isn't Dara kind of caught to speed up that process? Yeah, sure. To be fair.
And to be fair to your first cousin Liam, he probably done the same thing as well, Jim.
COVID was restrictive at club levels. So,
so just to be completely specific,
point taken, I'll be deleting this as well.
About when Tip didn't blood enough players, they won a Poxy All Ireland, and then they were back to the drawing board, didn't get out of Munster. Fair point. Fair assessment, yeah. Things. But it's the same, and you can understand it because a lot of these managers come in, they want to be successful, but you see it even at club level now. Do you know that they come in, they pick a team that's going to give them the best chance of performing, so that they can continue their own career progression rather than maybe thinking about the future. Yeah, and because I see Darragh Egan doing that down in Wexford. Yeah, I don't think the county needs panic now, as you say. It is only the league. Yeah, it was an awful day in Innovate Wexford Park, but I think that if they can focus on that Leinster Championship, they have a great chance of getting out. But it's really it's a season defining one for Wexford. Do you know how they respond to this now? Yeah. To be perfectly honest, because they can either lie down and be mounted, as they say, or stand up and be counted, do you know. And look, it's always very hard. That is a demoralising defeat, but it's probably even more demoralising the fact that, you know, it wasn't against a hurling stronghold county on top of it all, you know. Like if you shipped a defeat a Tip or a Limerick, you'd say fair enough, but when it's the banner boys, that's worse, you know.
No doubt, John, you're going to comment on it anyhow when it does happen.
I know, sure. Listen, great to see Tony back, Peter back. Yeah, Peter back scoring. Young blood coming through. Yeah, Rogers looked fresh there. Very good. No, lots of positives, I suppose. Listen, it is only the league. We're fairly depressed now the Monday after the Limerick one. Do you know, but sure, listen.
I met a Limerick man there yesterday evening in Cork and Fermoy, and he was giving out about the pitch in Galway and Salt Hill. It was almost
but that was scandalous.
It was a disgrace that the Limerick lads had been made play on that pitch.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
But no, back to matters at hand there, lads, because I don't think we'll be talking about Clare come May, to be honest, but let's see how it goes. Lauren and Claire, we have launched only this week the second issue of your monthly magazine, Out the Gap. Last month, you done it on pre-Cavan.
Yeah, that's right, James. So episode or issue 2 is after coming out. It's very topical at the moment, spring grazing, and definitely give it a read if you haven't done so yet.
Yeah, it is top class and fair play to you lads. I suppose you're the authors of it. 'tis your project and it's going great. John would claim that he's the editor of it, though. Would that be a fair statement, Johnny?
Yeah, well, sure, there's a lot of movement in the editorial space there in the last couple of weeks, so I put it down. I didn't put it down on the CV, like. You know.
I heard you were very close. Jack won the race in the end, but you were very close.
Pity we couldn't get rid of him.
Two. Stop. But I know. In fairness, it's brilliant information, very accessible, and I think this episode goes through, and we'll chat about it more today. But it talks about spring grazing from the cow point of view and the practical steps as well. Like.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the month of February has been very, very good grazing conditions. Rainfall has been well below average. Opening farm covers, I suppose, were kind of gone past that stage, but they were kind of lower than average, and soil temperatures have been very, very good. So it's been a very good season to capitalise on boosting grass growth and getting out with walking the farm and getting out with a bit of slurry, and now coming on early nitrogen.
And even, Lauren, when you're trying to write these articles, and Claire, I know like you're really embracing it and you're reading the thesaurus and all. Lauren, you introduced me to a new word today, which I thought was fantastic. You might define it for me. A knipshit. I've heard of a conniption. What is a knipshit?
A knipshit is something that John O'Loughlin daily goes through.
Now I have it.
Knipshit is a slip of the tongue. Is a actual definition, Jim.
I would have said tantrum, but that's fine. Claire, talk to me anyway about spring grazing.
So it's been a very good start to the year. It's been very dry. Farmers have been able to let their cows out to get a bit of grazing. It's very important to kind of ease the transition from the silage from being in the housing out into grazing. It can take up to 3 weeks for the cow's stomach to transition from the different changes of diet. So letting them out for a little bit every couple of days has been very easy due to the dry conditions this spring. So it's been easy on the farmers to try and capitalise on that grass.
Yeah, it's a very important one, Claire. And like just even going back to the first article you done on the Out the Gap, about the cow and even talking about the calf, like, but when we talk about transition period, we're talking about maybe 3 weeks before the cow calves and 3 weeks after the cow calves, and they're a very critical time. So there's a lot of cows on farm that have to calve yet, and just don't neglect them either. They do need a bit of minding. Just maybe watch condition on the cow, make sure they're getting enough minerals. Often, like those first maybe 60 or 70% of cows that are calved, they're all going to get what they need, but there is going to be a bit of neglect after that. So just make sure that they're getting their supplements, be it a block or dust and a bit of minerals on the silage, whatever it would be. The other thing is grass at the moment. Is there enough on the farm? That's kind of the question. And I know we're in that time of year now where farmers are wondering, is grass going to come? Are the growths going to come? Am I grazing too much? Am I grazing too little? What's happening? And it's like a lottery, to be honest, and it's only the man above that's going to dictate that. But we just have to follow those targets that are in place. We're on the 3rd of March now, so the aim is 30% of that farm grazed. That's what we're looking for at the moment. And there's a lot of different things playing around the system, how much we opened with on the farm. And I think a general enough consensus is that opening farm covers are low, and there's not as much grass on the farm as there would have been in other years. And personally, I think maybe a reason for that is just there was maybe a small bit of a pullback on nitrogen last year down to price and price, essentially. There just wasn't as much put out. And regulation, obviously, but I think that has maybe hindered the spring opening covers a small bit. So just how to manage them going forward.
Yeah, no, exactly. And farm covers were lower than we would have liked starting out this year. But like Dave said, we're after passing the 1st of March. We want that 30% grazed by the 1st of March, and we want to hold those average farm covers above that 600 kilos of dry matter until early April, or until we have 100% grazed and start the second rotation is key. And matching the demand of the cow to that grass growth, like David was saying there, and keeping an eye on body condition score and making sure that any tin cows are kind of pulled out and that they're given a little bit of extra concentrates. And look, any tin cows that are after calving down as well, maybe pulling them back to once a day milking as well, lads. Would you agree with that? And kind of keeping them, maybe upping it from 3 to 4 kilos.
Yeah, once a day milk them, but bring them into the parlour twice and give them that shot of meal as well. Like, make sure they're getting that, 3 or 4 kilos a day, whatever they're getting.
I think sometimes when you say once a day milking, some people forget that they actually have to come into the parlour and get that supplementation to prevent them from going back.
Very important, because they can't consume as much as they actually require at the moment. Production is higher than what they're intaking. So
is that easy managed for the farmer? Like if you were to explain to a lad how we go about once a day milking, we would explain that out loud there. So he's going to identify a few cows. It's very simple, Jim. Like, just identify those thin cows, maybe the cows that are under pressure. She just milk them in the morning, I'd say, and just leave it at that for maybe 2 weeks, 10 days, 2 weeks. And that just means that they're not producing as much as they would be on a twice a day milking system. And then I suppose they're a bit of an opportunity to build condition, or not build condition, maintain it even. Yeah,
and like the dry matter intake of a cow at post calving is only about 11 kilos of dry matter. So like what you're saying there, Dave, every week after calving, until a 6 to 7 week period, it's gonna gain that extra 1 kilo of dry matter per cow per day. So just keeping an eye on that. And
what did you open at home, Lauren? Farm cover
at home. Better than you, Dave, anyhow, by the sounds of it.
Well, go on, throw a figure.
Absolutely skint at the moment there, down in there.
John had 50% of the farm graze there by the middle of December.
It's either early or late.
He did an awful scale for dry cows in there. But no, you're on target anyway, John. You have to pull them out.
Yeah, that's the thing, sure. We'll look at the 2-year pasture base here now, sure. We might pull it up and Jim can drop it in on social media so everyone can see how well you're going, Dave. But
you might just comment on it, John. Is like those farmers there with very high opening covers and very low opening covers. What should those very low opening covers, maybe we'll say 400, what can or should they do?
So I suppose I can give Pat a ring directly if you want, Dave, or do you want me to call out to your home place, or what's the plan like for the low covers? But in general, like, I suppose I won't abuse Pat too much. But listen, I suppose grazing has got going in earnest. Like, most people probably are getting a little bit ahead, so it's really about slowing down cows a little bit more. There's cows out by day and night that previously wouldn't have. Even lads who would have been probably out, on off grazing are out by night now at this stage already. So they're getting through the percentages fairly quickly. I suppose the big thing there is to try and slow them up, because there's just not enough solar radiation to get the 11 and 1200 back on your first graze paddock by the 1st to the 5th of April during that window. Now, what we do, and the weather will influence that, is, Dave, as you said, is promised to get cold. What's that?
We've a microphone there, Dave.
Yeah, so Dave, we've only 4 microphones between 5 of us here. So Dave is shouting at me what solar radiation means. And I'd love to follow up with a very detailed response like you gave about once a day milking, which is as simple as it sounds. And you made some fist that one, Dave. Fair play to you. You nailed it. But solar radiation, is effectively sunlight, Dave. Exactly. So what we're looking at there is that there's just not enough daylight hours between, I suppose, that period in March where grass growth starts to take off if you graze too much of the farm too quickly to get enough of it back. So you need to have that little bit of a time. Now, what we can do to influence that is obviously nitrogen, phosphorus in springtime, the grazing, how we graze them, slurry applications. All these things are very important, but I suppose in reality, if you're too far ahead on your targets, if you're gone past 30% by the time this comes out, or 40% even, you can have a little bit of leeway. If you're gone past 40%, you need to slow them down. And it's very simple. The spring rotation planner is the easiest one to do. You have your percentages, you know the area that's available, you divide it up accordingly and work through it and fill the gap with either concentrate or good quality silage to make up the difference.
But John, it's easy to say, okay, get out and graze that 30%, but where is that 30%? Like, you know, you need to have decided where your 30% is, and rule of thumb could be, maybe you wouldn't agree with me now, but sticking to about 2% of the area per day will keep you on target with that 30%.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And like, obviously you're building up more grazing pressure as you go through it as well, so that you've more cows calved. If you are like we're talking about just in the context of people who are very far ahead, there's probably some people who are behind as well, and that's building up your grazing pressure by letting out weanings or letting out dry cows or something like that. Real late calvers could be an option as well if you are not hitting your targets. But it might feel, and maybe I'm wrong, is that people are, you know, working through those percentages fairly quickly and maybe too quickly, Lauren.
Yeah.
But your rule of thumb, I think, is really, really beneficial.
Yeah, well, like, to get through those covers and get to that 30% and that 60%, we do have to graze quite aggressively. But obviously there's a fine line between too much and too little, like, you know. And I suppose, obviously, John, you mentioned there about if you're grazing too aggressively, the implications of that, and obviously your cost of production is going to go up then because you're going to have to supplement. But also, if you're not grazing aggressively enough, it's going to have issues with your subsequent rotations. So your second rotation is going to be affected, and your grass quality won't be as good because you're going to have that kind of that poor grass quality, that discolouring at the butt. And then you're going to have issues. You're going to see a drop in your milk solids. Yeah,
no, definitely. And like, we're doing a couple of things in the first round of grazing. We're kickstarting the sward after out of dormancy. We're training the cows. So we're training them how to graze as well. Again, you know, that we can get them down to graze consistently, aggressively, to a decent residual. And we're conditioning the sward as well, you know, because light is very important, Clara, in that early period when the plant is just getting up and running.
That's correct, John. Yeah, as you always say, the best fertilizer in spring is grazing.
Oh, here we go. His head is swelling.
But then also it's very important for the animal getting that grass into the diet. Also help that cow to transition into the grass predominantly diet from the dry period. But then as you get onto your second rotation, you want to be just mindful of the amount of nitrogen in the grass. It becomes very lush and leafy and green. If there's too much nitrogen in the leaves and not converted into good quality proteins, it could have an effect on the cow's stomach, so the rumen, which then could have implications such as acidosis. You could lose your body score condition going into the breeding period. It could also influence your solids. So just be mindful of the amount of nitrogen that you would be spreading, especially coming into the second rotation when grass tend to be increasing in protein content.
And when you say be mindful, is there a little simple step that you could advise a farmer to take today, just or what to look out for? And is there any basic?
Yeah, cows can get very loose. Yeah,
very loose cows. Yeah, or their litres could tell you, or the solids of the cows, or maybe if there's cows getting lame and there's no explanation for it, it could be another possibility.
Yes, yeah.
And fat will probably take a hit first on the milk. So if you look at the docket, fat will take a hit first. But then if you see protein going down, you know, there's John, there's issues there. But as you said, like, you see scuttery cows, like that is a telltale sign. Yeah. So yeah, that second rotation is just trying to be very mindful, trying to get a bit more fibre into the cow. I know a lot of lads be pucking out round feeders and putting a bit of straw in just to try and slow down the cow a bit. Yeah, like just on the grazing there as well, like there's a savage opportunity there to get paddocks set up lovely there for the year ahead. Get them grazed out, like ground conditions are unbelievable.
Savage.
So just get them skinned out as much as you can. We actually done we had a bit of a training there the other day, and actually I'll call him out there now, Joe Hogan there from Clare. He's from 6 Mile Bridge. But I was saying to him, we're about grazed outs and everything. I was like, Joe, it's like you going into the Sherwood and getting the fry there in the morning, and then going home to the mother straight away and getting the bacon and cabbage. Just no way you'd finish it all. But Joe said there'd be no bother to
challenge accepted.
He'd finish it, but for you know, it's just allocating the grass properly, getting good graze outs, and look, your sward is going to be set up unbelievable there for the year. Look, the other thing going forward is if farmers are kind of wondering, have I too much graze, or is grass not coming back as much as it possibly should be or could be, looking at the first graze paddock, that's another very good indicator. The first 2 or 3 paddocks. So by the 1st of April, you're maybe looking at a cover of 1,200. So you're talking maybe 2.5 fists of grass. If you take a scalp from the bottom and talking 2.5 fists, that's what you're looking at. By then you're probably growing maybe 40 kilos of dry matter. So you're only a few days off your grazing cover. So it's just a good indicator, Jim.
Yeah, but even if people aren't maybe religiously measuring, like, they can use the spring rotation planner and hit those targets, and they should be fine. And like, I think what you have done really well, Claire and Lauren, in the out the gap, is you've looked at that transition period and explained it from a cow point of view. I was up the north last week, and there's an awful lot of things that they do better in relation to managing the cow. Like, listen, they're not a grass-based system, but they have a big focus on the dry period, the transition period, and they probably see at a higher end of output. When you have a higher output, you can see smaller differences more obviously. So they see the effects of rumen dynamics in a lot more detail. In the same way, like, you think about the cow, where the cow is calving, which is a very stressful physiological process, very, very stressful. We changed their diet completely, so they were on 11 kilos of poor quality silage, and then we put them on to either better quality silage or the same silage even, and an awful amount of concentrate. In overnight, we give them an awful lot of concentrate, 4 or 5 kilos, 6 kilos, whatever it is, and then we potentially turn them out to grass, and the grass is varying up and down. Now, spring grass is a tremendous feed. It's very high in crude protein. It's a very good mineral content as well. So, like, thinking about that in the context of ordering your concentrate depending on the season, and not oversupplying the protein is very, very important, because it can have negative consequences. But, like, there's all these dietary changes that are happening very quickly, and helping to transition that is very important. So keeping a little bit of consistency in the diet with the silage or whatever it's going to be, the concentrate, of course, is going to be there. Dave talks about the once a day, which is brilliant, because sometimes the more concentrate that we feed the cows, the more milk they produce. That's why their genetics want them to do. So they won't necessarily put them on, and, like, managing that condition score so it doesn't, like, some black and white cows, more Holstein, they just fall apart after they calve.
Yeah, and I think, John, like what you mentioned there, look, like, we did go through it in the article, but, like, the prep for now kind of starts in the autumn, and making sure that body condition score of the cow is between that 2.75 to 3, to allow that little bit of body condition over the winter, but not too much, because yes, the transition period is very stressful on the animal, and it's like us, like, we're not used to it, so the animal is the same, and, like, we want to start that prep in the autumn so that we can prevent issues of milk fever or ketosis, and it's just being mindful of it in the autumn, like, and, like, the effects of it are going to be now, because breeding season will be on top of us before we know it, and look, there is good utilisation of grass out there at the moment, so just getting out and grazing as best we possibly can, and making use of our slurry. Obviously, any paddocks that would have got slurry already, going with a bit of fertiliser to that area now, and really capitalising on that good grass growth at the moment.
A big question at the moment is it's on farmers. Should we put out urea? Should farmers put out urea?
So yeah, it's very topical at the moment. I suppose you're probably going to have gone with your slurry already on the paddocks that the cows have grazed. So yeah, I'd probably go with a bit of protected urea or nitrogen at the moment now to top up those paddocks that would have got slurry earlier. You're probably looking at that, maybe that 23 units of nitrogen now, just to keep it ticking over, and that magic day will be on top of us before we know it, so that's when we want to be aiming for that, to make sure we're on top of it. So yeah, I'd say definitely.
Yeah, and I suppose where the concern is coming is just cold weather, a bit of frost at night, but frost at night and thawing during the day, it's perfect. I don't see any issue. Soil temperatures are increasing. They might maybe be stagnant now at the moment, but they're not going to go back down. There is talks of a bit of snow, but look, I don't think there's a whole lot promised to come, so I don't think there's any issue.
But like David, we were out there on Friday last week, and we were testing the soil temperatures, and they're about 6.6 to 7 degrees Celsius. So they're not going to drop back massively. They might drop back a little bit, but they're not going to drop massively. Like, you will get a response from that nitrogen, and like for every 1 kilo of nitrogen in the spring, you get a response of 10 kilos of dry matter. Do you know? So I wouldn't worry too much about it yet.
And you can see the docks peeping up now above the grass as well. Like, it's a sure sign that things are starting to kick off.
To grow.
John's farm there last week, docks
covered in it. It's a disgrace, John. We get on top of that.
I don't know, John. A few bottles of something to go with anyway, but
soil conditioner only.
I suppose when there's not high rainfalls going with your nitrogen and getting that nitrogen down into the soil, you're kind of more in the safe zone. It's the high rainfall that might cause problems through leaching and stuff. So if it's able to get into soil and the cold weather did come, it mightn't be a terrible thing.
Yeah. And go out to the paddock and bury your knee in the ground, and if there's a bit of if your knee is wet coming back up, like, as long as there's moisture there's no issue. Look, we're not gone that dry yet, but I'd say go with the nitrogen. As John says, we'll grow nothing in the bag. You're right again, John.
Dave, there, you might just go through a bit on if there is really bad weather coming, wet conditions, animals are out on paddocks. What would your advice be to farmers? Would you back fence? What would your advice be?
Yeah, there's nothing forecast, but I think it is going to come. But back fencing, you said it yourself. Keeping on those targets, maybe keeping cows in. Look, and I'd often say as a rule of thumb is damage a paddock once, but don't do it twice. If you do it twice, you're that paddock is on the back foot for the year or more. But spur roads on if things are real bad, that can be a big help as well. And I've often seen farmers actually graze them from the back to the front of the paddock, so they can actually leave the front near the road near the roadway as a kind of like as a safety net. You know, if things do come very bad, you can graze and come straight off it again. Like, you know,
or using a different entrance to the paddock or something like that.
And look, all that is easier said than done, but just being a small bit smarter about, I suppose, how you're setting up your paddocks.
Now, just on a side note there as well, as anyone that knows me, I'm quite humble and I wouldn't have a big ego or anything, but I received a message from a friend during the week, and it just was simple enough. Portrush, the podcast capital of Ireland. So there's a lady from Portrush, Anna O'Connor. Anna has launched a podcast this week, The Gratitude Attitude. It's actually a great listen, and anyone that's interested in that's great, just to kind of transform your life by starting with your core values. The power of gratitude to cultivate a positive mindset. I think it's a great little listen. Aside from agriculture, could support us all as well, as we be very grateful for everything we have. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, sure. Listen, I suppose the key message is, if you haven't done a grass walk, go out and do one. Just get a feel for where you are. The percentages, work the percentages. Get out some nitrogen. Like, there's a lot of ground that's very hungry looking. It's not going to grow on fumes. And anyone who cut back too much last year in the spring felt it for the whole year.
Fair play, Johnny. And lads, issue 2, check it out. Go to our website, www.grasslandagro.ie. Out the Gap with Lauren and Claire. It's on Spring Grazing. And if you didn't read the last one, preparing for calving as well. Mind yourselves out there. Farm smart, farm safe. Hey, thanks for listening to the Sod Pod. We hope you enjoyed it. To find out more, head over to www.grasslandagro.ie or check out our social channels: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn and YouTube. That's all for this episode. See you next time.